Sky Broadcasting Network.
This week on NHRA Today, looking ahead at the 1993 Pro Stock Bike season, a flashback to a first ever funny car victory, drag racing's two-wheel goodwill ambassador, and the speedy Sooner who's standing in high cotton. From the Slick 50 Nationals at Houston Raceway Park, these stories and more on this edition of NHRA Today. Rising sharply above the Gulf Coast plains, the Houston skyline features some of the most diverse architecture in the world, with the accent on altitude. Bigger is definitely better in the Lone Star lexicon. Awe-inspiring structures tower above the nation's fourth largest metropolis and gleam in the warmth of the western sun. The city is a glittering testimonial to the wonders of glass and steel, and that same concept is carried over into the facilities at Houston Raceway Park, one of the brightest jewels in drag racing's crown of super tracks. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of NHRA Today. I'm Steve Evans. In the next half hour, we'll bring you a preview of this, the Slick 50 Nationals here in Houston, the third stop on the NHRA Winston calendar. We'll focus particularly on the Pro Stock motorcycles as their year begins right here. We'll even profile one of their riders. Plus, we got a bunch of late-breaking drag racing stories. So let's get started in that direction with this week's What's Hot. Earlier this week at Firebird International Raceway in Phoenix, Gordy Bonham was hard at work getting licensed to drive the Hawaiian Vacation Dodge Daytona funny car.
I'm very pleased with the way it's all worked out so far. The new team knew everything. Just want to go out there and show them what we can do and send some of those guys on a Hawaiian vacation.
The session also offered car owner Roland Leong and crew chief Leonard Hughes a chance to shake down the Murph McKinney chassis.
It's kind of like starting all over again. We got some catching up to do, and both Leonard and myself know that, but we're working on it.
Meanwhile, here in Houston, a star-studded team of Winston champions is making its debut in the Team Kendall colors. In Top Alcohol Funny Car, two-time titleist Frank Manzo will be driving a Dodge Daytona, while 1991 Super Gas champ John Asta will be behind the wheel of a 990 Pontiac. Rounding out the terrific trio is John Mafaro, the 1989 Pro Stock Bike winner. And that's What's Hot. During its 5-year history, the Slick 50 Nationals has had its share of first-time winners. Just 1 year ago, Mark Powick captured his first ever win when he slapped a hole shot on Ricky Smith, then held on to win by a mere 4 thousandths of a second. And right after that, Cruz Pedregon scored the first victory of his professional career over a struggling Gordon Mineo. There is nothing to compare with the thrill of a long-sought event victory, as Scott Coletta found out in the funny car category back in 1989 at this very race.
Houston 89 was my first win in any car, and I won funny car. It was a fairly low maintenance weekend. We never took the motor apart all weekend. The car was a fairly old car, and it had an old style rear end in it. We were taking the rear end out of it every run and putting new axles in it. In fact, I believe it was second round, I broke the axles, and the guy I was racing had broken input shaft, so we were both a coasting race. So that was kind of interesting. In the final, I beat Bruce Larson, and he was the world champion that year, so it was definitely not a gimme. He had some problems and thought he was on fire, and he wasn't. It was just a flash from the head gasket, and he shut it off, and I motored on by him, so it was kind of sweet.
The 1993 Winston Pro Bike season kicks off right here for its 11-event tour. And if last year is any indication, the two-wheel tears are going to become even more popular and powerful. Back to defend his second championship in 3 years is John Myers, who will once again ride for Star Racing. John will start the season on his championship-winning Katana before making an early season change.
We got a new one in the makings. Ken Johnson's building back at the shop, but right now we still got the one we won the championship with last year, and we're looking for some good times out here. We came here a couple weeks ago testing and ran a 767 on a bog, so we're we're looking forward to some good numbers if we can get it off the line.
The rider, considered by many to be the favorite for the 1993 crown, is Byron Hines. He will once again be aboard the only Yamaha in the field, and his is the only bike not affected by new weight and engine rules.
Right now, the bike will be at the same pounds per cubic inch as it was last year. We only have to put on 10 pounds this year, and we added 12 cc's to the motor. So the combination is pretty much the same, and it was working good towards the end of last year.
As mentioned earlier, John Mafar was sporting a new sponsor, and he expects to be among the contenders.
I'm probably the oldest guy out here right now, 15 years, and this is what I've been striving for my racing career, you know, and it's just, you know, what direction you're going now for the next 10 months. You know, I have money to work. If something happens, if something breaks, I have, you know, backup, and I have a good company behind me.
Strong running, John Smith hopes to build on the success of his 1992 rookie season with the new Suzuki GSXR.
There might be a little more pressure. I know we're expecting to do a little better than we did last year. Got a new bike. We did some testing here last weekend. Things look pretty good. So our expectations are pretty high.
All in all, quite an impressive field. Now, you eagle eyes may have noticed that we left out one of the top guns in the class. Well, the California kid Steve Johnson for 93 has joined forces with engine builder extraordinaire Nigel Patrick. And Steve hopes it'll be a winning combination. Right now, Dave McClellan gives us a close-up look at this high-energy competitor.
If there ever was a goodwill ambassador for the Pro Stock motorcycle contingent, Steve Johnson would be it. And quite frankly, his enthusiasm is darn right contagious.
He's really got neat at it because he believes what he's doing. He really is sincere about it. Otherwise, he wouldn't. You could tell if he was phony, but he isn't. He really goes right at it.
It just goes to having a focus in life. There's so many people that have all different kinds of dreams, and my dream is to really make Pro Stock motorcycle a special thing.
By Steve's description, just riding a Pro Stock motorcycle must be a special thing.
And when you go 0 to 60 miles an hour in 1 second, it has 2.5 G-forces against our body through our computer that tells us that. It's like hanging onto a bullet being fired out of a gun.
Steve's fascination with motorcycles was fueled by his father, Royal, who road raced bikes when Steve was young. And in 1984, Steve opened Sport Bikes, a motorcycle repair shop in Chatsworth, California.
My love was in, obviously, motorcycles, and I always wanted to ride a Pro Stock motorcycle. So no matter what, I felt like I could always feel to my love in riding a motorcycle if I had my own shop.
And with business and marketing programs growing, Steve relies on his crew and his father for support.
My dad is now in charge of Slick 50 Racing as far as I'm concerned.
It's fun to be with him, and we had some tough times, and I'm glad I can be with him when we're really getting things trying to get going again.
And together with him, it brings the family tie, something that I've learned with NHRA, that it is a family, and now my family has grown even stronger together through racing.
Steve's extended family includes thousands of school kids he's cultivated as friends and fans.
The reason our children, and specifically the kids at schools, is so important to Steve Johnson is it's a way to give something back to the community. I sincerely feel in my heart that I'm a very lucky person, and there's so many things that you can do out in the community to bring good things back. Some of the neatest things that we've had is some schools have made actual books where they've bound all the pictures and letters together. And no matter what, these books I keep in my office, and I hang these pictures on the wall just like it was a trophy.
He's also spent countless hours consoling hospitalized children.
One of the neatest hospital visits that we were at was the Los Angeles Children's Hospital. And those kids at Christmas time really have a hard way to go, and you can see it in their eyes. But at the same time that you can see the pain in their eyes, you can also see the warmth and enjoyment they get out of when we spend just 3 or 4 hours with them.
From the classroom to the boardroom, Steve Johnson is forever promoting the sport he loves.
When you've given your life for this since '84, you learn a lot of things, and there's still a lot more to learn. You have a business aspect of the motorcycle, you have a competition aspect, and you have the fun recreational weekend aspect. Those three things together a person can live on next to cornflakes.
Kenny Bernstein's recent crash has once again underscored the need to keep exploding parts away from the rear tires. And there's a lot of technology on the drawing board, ballistic blankets that wrap around the engines, kind of like a diaper. But Don Prudhomme may have come up with the best stopgap measure yet. Let me show you these panels on either side of the engine. Now, this is not the body material. That's lightweight magnesium. This is super strong stuff. It is carbon fiber, Kevlar, and Nomex all combined. It is bulletproof vest technology. Unfortunately, the Snake has tested these now twice with parts that hit the chassis so hard it dented the chrome moly steel and didn't even mark these. How much do they cost? These two panels, what are they, a couple of square feet? $1,500, but you can save a $100,000 race car. Al Hoffman's newest Dodge Daytona funny car, buddy, features a salute to NHRA Safety Safari. And well, it should, because 2 weeks ago in Phoenix, they may have saved Al some serious injuries. As it was, he left the track with a destroyed car. But thanks to hard work on the part of his crew, they're back with new equipment. Now, don't get the idea that racers like the idea of disposable cars. In fact, right now, Bob Fry tells us about an Oklahoma sportsman racer who has had the same ride for 15 years.
When the Division IV Winston Drag Racing Series event at the Texas Motorplex was hit by rain last weekend, probably one of the most disappointed racers was Mike Cotton. You see, Cotton has had his best success at this track, winning back-to-back Cheap Auto Parts Nationals in '91 and '92.
Certainly the fact that it's so close to home and all our friends are always there, we always have a good time. Maybe it's just the fact I'm so relaxed when I'm down there. And this last year when I won it my second time, I was just so relaxed because I had no thought that I even had a chance of repeating the win.
Maybe one of the things that relaxed Mike so much was the fact that it was a special day for him and his wife, Paula.
When we won in 1991 at the Chief Nationals, it was our anniversary. And then also when we repeated in 1992, it was also our anniversary. We enjoy spending our holidays at the racetrack.
And speaking of weddings, the car that Mike drove to those national wins was also the car that he took on his honeymoon and to college. In fact, this is the only car that Mike has ever raced.
When I bought this car in 1973, one of the first things I did was take it out to the drag strip and see what it'd do, and it just evolved into where we would bracket race pretty regularly at Tulsa. And then in 1982, we decided we wanted to step up, and we built it into an NHRA stocker, and that's what we've been doing ever since. I've owned it over half my life now. As a matter of fact, in August of this year, it'll be 20 years old. I bought it in August of 1973, brand new. It's still got the original paint on it. It's got the original upholstery. It's pretty much a stocker in the true sense of the word.
The Broken Arrow, Oklahoma resident could just as easily race in Division 5. But he says that Division 4 is where all of his friends race. And that means racing stock's heavy hitters, the Emmons.
The Emmons family, I feel we've had a real friendly rivalry with them over the years. We're real good friends with all of them. And they've gotten the best of me, I'm sure, a lot more than I've gotten the best of them.
Mike and the Emmons family will be back at the Texas Motorplex next weekend when this rained-out event will be held. And unfortunately for the Cottons, this race won't be on their anniversary. For NHRA Today, I'm Bob. I haven't forgotten my anniversary yet. Have I, dear? Fry.
Does anyone out there remember the first movie astronaut, Flash Gordon, the black and white Saturday afternoon serials they showed at the matinees? Well, I certainly do. Here in Houston, though, they deal with the real thing. How about all those great conversations between NASA, Mission Control, and the real live astronauts? This is the home of high tech. Also, that's reflected here in Houston in the drag racing pit area, including some of the devices used by the rules makers. Here is Frank Hawley with this week's Fast Fact.
The NHRA has a number of technical rules to help ensure the safety of their cars. One set of technical rules governs the tubes that are on this frame. Each tube has a specific diameter and thickness that it needs to be to conform to the rules. While the diameter of the tube is quite easy to check, you can just use a template. But when it comes time to checking the thickness of the tube, that's another matter, and there isn't one racer out here that wants you to saw through his roll cage to find out how thick the tubing is. That's why they've developed an ultrasonic tester. How it works is it's put on the frame rail, and an ultrasonic signal is sent through the frame rail. When it reaches the inside of the material, that signal bounces back to the receiver. The length of time it took the signal to go in and come back shows you the thickness of the tubing. that ensures that each car meets the NHRA specifications.
Now that gadget works really well when dealing with metal tubing. But right now, we turn our attention to a form of drag racing in which the cars are carved from wood.
When racers get together, they like to talk about where the really big events take place. And when they do, tracks like Pomona, Dallas, Indy, Maple Grove, Englishtown, and others all come up in the discussion. Now, if you're a racer with Cub Scout Pack 67 and you talk about the big event, there's only one place that comes to mind, and that place is the cafeteria of St. Francis Cabrini School in Piscataway, New Jersey. And the event, the annual Pinewood Derby.
24 boys are given a block of wood at the beginning of December. Along with the block of wood, they're given 4 wheels and 5 nails. They are allowed to carve the car any way they want. They cannot alter the length, and they cannot alter the width. The car is not allowed to weigh any more than 5 ounces. They can distribute the weight any way they want, but it cannot weigh any more than 5 ounces. And then come race night, if it's over 5 ounces, they're allowed to drill it out, but if it's under 5 ounces, they're not allowed to add any more weight. The car that they bring, that's what they race. It's a way to bring the boys and the fathers to join in together and build the car and shape it and put the decals on, and they get a lot of fun for the 2 months.
Like any big-time racing event, prior to the eliminations, the racers were riding an emotional roller coaster. For the Cicerelli brothers, there was the added pressure of sibling rivalry.
We race cars, and whoever wins keeps on going. Now, if you lose 3 times, you're out, and you just sit and watch everybody else race.
I hope I just get to the finals of the den, but I really particularly don't care because it's my last year and I just want to have fun.
After the early rounds of eliminations were done, it came down to the finals for Cub Scout Pack 67 in the Pinewood Derby. Kenny B will be starting out representing pack number 2. Tommy B represents pack number 3. Mark G represents pack number 4. Billy P represents pack number 5. You guys all set and ready to go? Good luck to you guys. Cafeteria dust finally settled. The victory went to Den 2, Pack 67 member Kenneth Bodner.
I feel great. I also had a strategy. All I did was pray.
Well, that brings an end to this program, but we will be back next weekend, and we'll visit the headquarters of a phenomenally successful sportsman team, the Nickens brothers. It's sure to be a good time, so you be sure to join us. Until then, I'm Steve Evans.
NHRA Today is a presentation of Diamond B Sports.